Really? Yeah. Your timing's impeccable. It's still 3:59. Wait. Good afternoon. This meeting of the MSJC Board of Directors is now in order. We're meeting at our Temecula campus, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, 1.2. Would Trustee Silva be willing to lead us in the pledge?
Thank you. Please rise with me and pledge your hand on your heart.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. 1.3, roll call, establishment of quorum.
Trustee Ashley,
Present?
Trustee Carpenter. Here. Trustee Corona,
Present.
Trustee Smith,
Present.
Trustee Silva.
Here.
Student Trustee Cardenas. Present. Academic Senate John Torres. Classified Senate Ronnie Armas. Student Government Association Claudia Waluko.
Now move to 1.4, approval of minutes, regular meeting of February 13th. I'll accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Student trustee, please vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Please vote. Aye.
Aye.
Item 1.5, revision, adoption, ordering of agenda. Do we have a motion to, do we have any revisions? No. So do we have a motion to accept the agenda as it's presented?
Trustee Ashley, I move to approve.
Discussion. Hearing none, will the student trustee please vote?
Aye.
Board members, please vote.
Aye.
Item 2.1, comments of individuals, groups, delegations limited to closed session items. Do we have any? There are none. So we will now move on to 3.1 closed session. We will now move to closed session to discuss 3.2, conference with labor negotiator, CSCA. 3.3, conference with legal counsel, pending litigation. 3.4, conference with legal counsel, potential litigation. 3.5, conference with real property negotiator. 3.6, public employee dismissal, discipline release. And 3.7, we will come back and report out and reconvene. So we'll now move to closed session. Thank you. We're back. We are now going to reconvene to open session. We have nothing to report out from closed session. With that, we'll move on to 4.1, public comment. Comments of individual groups, delegations limited to items that are on the agenda. Do we have anyone that's going to speak tonight? Okay, hearing that, we will move on to item number 5. 5.1, board president and trustees. We will start with trustee Smith. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, this month I attended the County State of Education address, actually with trustee Silva and some of the others there. And then I toured a local middle school to see what was going on. And then just today, along with Jackie and Karen here, I attended the Regional Economic Summit in Hemet. At the summit, it was interesting to hear all the programs that the county has for job and workforce type things. I didn't even realize they did all those things. So I would encourage any of the instructors or students to have people that would be looking for job or any kind of instruction to at least check out what they have, because they have a lot of things available. And of course, they talked about the growth that's still coming in the Inland Empire that we always talk about here. And the takeaway that I seen from what I seen at the schools, there's no question that at the forefront, it's hands-on education. So we must stay the course with having at least high quality things for the things we're doing in the CTE, because that's what's coming in the forefront. And then after all of that, what I seen that was the most encouraging thing was at the State of the Education. I think Jackie could attest to this. We had 80 kindergartners serenade to us, and it reminds you of why we do these things, and we still have hope even in this crazy world. That's it.
Thank you, trustee Smith. Trustee Corona.
On March 13th, I had the opportunity to attend the MSJC K-12 Summit, where educators, counselors, administrators, and elected officials gathered to receive training and information on key educational programs. These programs consisted of early college credit and career pathways, dual and concurrent enrollment and financial aid applications, MSJC, allied health programs, apprenticeships and internships supporting high school enrollment, and MSJC transfers. I want to give a special thank to Joyce Johnson for a warm welcome and introduction. I also extend my gratitude to Dr. Jeremy Brown and Rebecca Teague and the dedicated MSJC staff for their efforts in organizing this impactful event. It was wonderful to reconnect with many of my close friends who are counselors and teachers and administrators from across the region. Because I'm a teacher, I've been working for 23 years, so I've been working with them for a while now. School districts such as PUHSD, Paris Union High School District, Elsinore, Marietta, Temecula, Hemet, San Jacinto, Nuevo, Romoland, and Menifee, and many others were well represented, highlighting our shared commitment to student success. Thank you to everyone who made this event a success. On March 14th, I also went to the Menifee Gala. On March 14th, it was hosted by Rotary Club, a night filled with celebration and community spirit. It was great to see Vicky Carpenter work her magic. Our former MSJC board of trustee, former Menifee Mayor Bill Zimmerman did a fantastic job in hosting this event. A special congratulations to Lisa Sobig. She was honored for Menifee's Person of the Year, and a well-deserved recognition for her contributions to the community. It was also good to see Dr. Jeremy Brown in attendance, adding to this wonderful evening. A wonderful event celebrating the people who make Menifee shine. Thank you.
Trustee Silva.
Thank you, trustee Ashley. Good afternoon. I wanted to thank the accreditation team here at MSJC and the accreditation review team from across California for their commitment to the accreditation process. It was an arduous task and a worthwhile one. I specifically wanted to extend my congratulations to the MSJC accreditation team. Your months and months and months of work have paid off. I also wanted to extend my congratulations to our administrators and the MSJC Faculty Association on their salary agreements. It's a good thing for the taxpayers and their respective association membership when an agreement can be reached early and amicably. On February 26th, Trustee Ashley and I participated in the Participatory Governance Standard 6D interview here at the Temecula campus. This interview was a part of the accreditation process where Trustee Ashley and I were asked about the board's relative understanding of the governance standards. It was a great conversation, and I believe that both Trustee Ashley and I were able to convey multiple topics, including the unity and overall collegiality of the board. The solicitation of candidates for student government positions has begun, or at least will begin shortly. And every community college is looking for good and level-headed leaders to take over the reins of student government. The issue for many SGAs is a lack of candidates in various areas. And I join my board colleagues in encouraging all students to take an active role in their student government. And we look forward to an invigorating election in the next month or so. I wanted to also congratulate MSJC women's basketball for their Inland Empire Athletic Conference Championship and head coach Taylor Bell for being named the Inland Empire Athletic Conference Coach of the Year on February 22nd. Just as impressive was the 3 first team and second team all-conference selections for our student athletes. On March 1st, I attended the 3C2A women's basketball playoff game where the Eagles hosted the Griffins of Grossmont. Was not the result we were all hoping for. In honor of National Athletic Training Month, I would like to recognize our athletic trainers here at MSJC, David Brunken and Tiffany Ray Bobo, as well as the athletic training students and pre-professional students for keeping our student athletes safe. During March, athletic trainers across America are being recognized for their commitment to teaching future professionals, helping student athletes prevent injuries and stay healthy and active. As healthcare professionals, they are highly educated and dedicated to the job at hand. And I can safely speak for my board colleagues in sharing our appreciation for the team that we have here at MSJC. I wish everyone the best of luck in their NC2A men's basketball brackets. And with that, I would like to wish everyone a happy and safe National Ravioli Day. Chair Ashley, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you for your entire report, minus ravioli, maybe. Too many carbs. Trustee Carpenter.
Mine will be carb-free. And short. So I would like to just extend appreciation for MSJC, the Employer Forum and Award ceremony that took place last month. It was quite a nice event, your first event in that arena. I wore 2 hats. The Chamber of Commerce, also the Menifee Valley Chamber of Commerce, was honored by an award given by MSJC. So I want to appreciate that and honor, and Trustee Ashley was with me that day. It was a beautiful day. And then, of course, Trustee Corona alluded to the Rotary Gala that we had this past Saturday. Thank you for coming. Of course, Dr. Jeremy Brown was there. MSJC, for some reason this year, did not win the wine cooler as they have in years past. So that is broken now, got to get back at that. So also, I want to congratulate the accreditation team for their hard work. And I think what we're going to hear are really good reviews and comments. And I know you've really worked hard, so thank you very much. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Carpenter. For my report, it's relatively short. First, I'm not going to retread the ground already mentioning me. Yes, I was with Trustee Silva and other events. But I'd like to bring up an idea that I and another one trustee were kicking about. I was a varsity cross-country coach for years at Paris High School, and I was also the head track coach. And I was the distance guy, so I take interest once a while back in seeing Vice President Teague's kids very fastly becoming super fast. I remember seeing the HIMMET results and all those things. It was great. I'm extremely excited that we're going to add a women's cross-country program to MSJC. Trustee Corona was far faster than I ever was, and I know he's quite the athlete himself. With a new women's cross-country program, it's going to be hard for us to be highly competitive and to have a complete program if we don't have at least a women's distance program in our track and field. So I would like staff to explore the idea of adding a women's, not a complete women's track program because we don't have the facilities for that, but we could find a way to make a women's distance program 800 and onward, and then the long relays. And then, we probably wouldn't win a track meet with a partial team, but we could go on to playoffs with such a team and be very successful. So I just wanted to put that in your minds to talk about, please. And with that, I'll move on to my second topic, which is like more, I don't know, esoteric. I'm seeing a lot of institutions in the nation somewhat under attack lately. And I'm very grateful. I have a deep gratitude for the institution that we're all sitting inside of right now. MSJC is like a very steady institution that's been in the community now for over 60 years. And I have just a deep sense of gratitude for the stability of our institution and the respect it has around the community. And with that, one of the reasons it's an institution and not just like a business ran by a CEO is because we have committees. We have students get a say in how this college is run. Faculty have a say. Our CSCA and our classified employees have a say, and the trustees have a say. That's what makes it an institution. There's pillars of this college. And I just want to remind everyone, and this is not a subtle shot at anybody, but I want to remind everyone that those processes is what makes us the respected and stable. Everyone don't take the quick way out to get something done and cut corners. Like, respect the committee processes that we all have in place. But then that creates a second problem. Sometimes you can get bogged down in process and we don't meet the needs of our students. And sometimes the best thing to do is get a quick approval or do something quickly in order to like do what's best for our students. That's going to be an interplay. And I think, that's fine. But when we cut corners, which I don't feel we do, and I don't want to start, it erodes trust. It makes people feel like, why go to the committee? They're just going to decide whatever they want. Or Roger might say, well, I would love to do this track program, for example, but it'll never get past committee. We can lose like the confidence to get things done at at the most basic enrollment level for a new student, all the way up to the CEO who maybe feels like that would just be a tremendous amount of work. So I guess what I'm just trying to say is we have to do both. We have to have the courage to push things through committee that are unpopular sometimes and fight to get things done when it's extra work. And I just want to remind us all, like, that's the job. Doing what's best for students, even when it's extra work. And I feel like we are doing that. It's more of a pep talk. Let's keep doing it. Let's rededicate ourselves always. Our WASC, it was a great example of how we are doing such a thing. And I don't normally go on this long, so I'm just going to say, great job. Let's do this and let's uphold this institution and not let anything chip away at it like we're seeing at other levels in our government. And that concludes my report. I will now hand it over to Student Trustee Cardenas.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Hopefully mine isn't as long.
I get to go long once in a while.
Okay, generally mine is long, but that's for a good reason. So I am now officially in my 20s over this past weekend, so yay. And then right after, immediately back to college classes, so we're back into reality. March has been an extremely busy month, I'm sure, for a lot of us, especially late February, a lot going on, accreditation, a lot of things happening. Midterms are not technically over, kind of in the ended part, so a lot of things piling on. But on light of that, I am trying my best to get some work done, making sure everything is done accordingly. I finally started our student-centered listening sessions and trying to get input from students across all 3 campuses. We just completed the second one just earlier, about an hour or 2 ago, in our TVC cafe. I've received over 106, 50, 40, I'm not sure the exact calculation. I'm getting a lot of responses from students who are on campus and actually getting good input on demands that students want from centers like this. And I really hope that I could bring that data here once we are done next week, next Thursday, to really show the importance and the needs and wants of spaces dedicated for students. And so we could build a better community on our campuses, because that's mostly the general request, is a place for students to build off of each other and have community and have spaces to make events or have a place to lounge for students dedicated. And that's also considering that not all 3 campuses equally get spaces that they can be around, mostly concerning our SJ campus. Um, so that would be our last one. Hopefully I can get a lot of input from that. That's the one I'm really hoping to get input from, because I want to be able to advocate for those students. That's my home campus, and even concerns that I've noticed, they have noticed as well. That brings in the conversation of our MSJC Cafe. I have spoken with VP Tig about it. That's something that we will be hoping having conversation about. Again, big concern, highlighting the difference between all 3 is definitely what's making me push this really hard, because I do want the students to be able to have a place just as nice as the other 2 campuses, because it's generally the only space that they really get, and they do deserve a space like that. Another concern I want to bring up was Puente graduation was not able to receive any funds. It was now combined with the Raza graduation. There was some input from some Puente students that were generally a part of that. I did not bring this up to VPT, sorry. Brand new information. There was some concern that they would not get the recognition that they wanted. Again, this is something that we will be talking with more Puente students to see their opinions on it. This is a new change. Generally, they get their own graduation, but just wanted to bring that to the table, that this is something that they generally were a bit upset about. I'm very glad to be part of the accreditation process. Very happy that I was able to be there as a student rep. There was definitely a lot of conversations going on. Me, President Joy, ex-President Joy Miller, and current President Waluka were definitely a big part of trying to get our voices out there as student reps. So I'm very happy to be part of that process. And we, as an SJ, have restructured our Student Government Association, and that will be coming in effect with our elections coming up for new student reps for the next upcoming year. So definitely a change in pace, but we wanted to advocate for each campus equally as much as possible, while also including more positions. President Waluka will be having more conversation on that and what we have changed and what we have implemented to try to advocate for our students more as a student body, a student government association. And I think that is all from me right now. Just 2 more months of college. That's the end of my report.
Will we now move on to President Schultz and the superintendent's update?
Lead with cabinet, so nothing.
Just a few things. So I wanted to alert you that this week we implemented our dualenrollment.com system with our K through 12 partners. It was something that our partners had been asking for, some seamless processes to be able to get all of the student parent agreement forms in and really streamline that effort. So our teams went into full effect last year, worked with the vendor, and was able to actually beat our deadline. We had hoped to get ready for summer, which we are. And so we met all the timelines and it went live this Tuesday. Training happened last week with all of the K-12 partners outside of the K-12 summit. So it was earlier in the week and we are hearing good information back. Obviously, there will be things that we'll need to tweak as we move forward, but we're very excited to have the new product to be able to help that onboarding process, because it was a very manual process before, a lot of paperwork going back and forth between the K-12 partners and us. So we're hoping to see a lot of benefit to our students and that program through that new system. Also, I wanted to let you know that we just submitted a Title V eligibility waiver. You're like, what is that? Each year, in order for us to apply for any Title V Hispanic Serving Institution grants, we are required to submit a waiver. And so we successfully did that this week in hopes that there will be future competitions this year. If there are no competition, that's okay, but we are still eligible to apply for those grants if they do become available through the Department of Education. So that is happening right now. And then also, I just want to commend Trustee Cardenas for all the work that she has put into the student listening sessions. I have had a front seat in watching her create the survey tool to hit the ground running, to walk up to folks and get that information. And even the response rate that she's received is fantastic. Typically, when we send out electronic surveys, the response rate isn't even close to what she's been receiving in person. So definitely kudos goes to her for gathering that information and making sure that at each site, representation is happening and she's gathering that information for hopefully her legacy project of student centers at all 3 sites. So I just want to make sure that I commend her for those efforts. And that concludes my report.
And I don't have a report tonight.
I just want to acknowledge our Board of Trustees that do participate and show up with your presence at our career education event. It's really heartwarming to me and to my team when you're there to represent, no matter how many hats you wear, Vicki, but your presence is well noted and well gratitude for it. In addition, on Monday, our Child Development Center will be undergoing a reaccreditation for our toddler program. And looking at their self-study that they've completed, they're well poised to be reaccredited. And with that accreditation comes up funding. So I'm very proud of the Director Kendra and her team over there as they're going through that process. And as well, on Wednesday of next week, our automotive program will be going through a reaccreditation as well for ASC accreditation. And again, in reviewing their self-study, fingers crossed that they as well will be very successful in accreditation. And I will end with our nursing program, our fall 2024 class. We had 100% pass rate.
And I have no report. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I do have a report to make up for all.
Come on, Rob.
I want to thank my colleagues who were able to fill in for me as I was chairing the CEO symposium this past Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was a great conference with a lot of information, but I had the pleasure of actually having a very small lunch with Dr. Michael Crow, the president of ASU, who was our guest keynote speaker. You've seen their advertisements. They are trying to make a stronger presence in California, and they have 2 buildings in downtown LA. Evidently, I thought they only had 1. More importantly, they have 24,000 Californians enrolled at ASU, and they're seeing themselves as an alternative as some of the enrollment restrictions start to mount as the budget hits the CSU, if you're following that. But again, it was a great conversation, a very visionary leader. Trustee Silva, I'm excited to say the Pass Biz Hub is coming along. There was a grand opening slated, but it had to be pushed back due to some technical issues. But I share this because in a pre-meeting, Supervisor Extian Gutierrez had a program called the Song Program, which is trying to teach music education entrepreneurship. And they were sharing in a meeting how they had to bus students all the way into Orange County on the weekends. And I said, well, we got a recording program. So they're like, well, can we come check it out maybe tomorrow, short notice? So I want to give thanks to faculty member Bob Bozanello and our new full-time faculty member, the music instructor, Andrew Steinberg, who literally on a dime within 24 hours put together an amazing tour. So much so that, again, they were only supposed to come to us for 10 minutes. They wanted to stay with us and not go back because our program and our faculty made such a strong impression. And Dr. Brown was there too, and that didn't take away from it. So, but no, again, I think there's a lot of innovation happening and that could lead into something. Speaking of innovation and Dr. Brown, we had the pleasure with Dean Don Hauser. We got to make the trek for 3 hours into LA to go see Dreamscape Learn. This is something that the California Community College's Chancellor's Office, and I believe the Academic Senate is getting involved with it as well, trying to explore this immersive 3D technology for learning in lab environments, but it has application across a lot of disciplines. So very impressive technology. We hope to explore that further, but I don't ever want to go back to LA again. It was a rough drive. It was a rough drive. And then not lastly, but advocacy. The budget hearings are going on up in Sacramento right now, and some of our data is actually being used, and we are being cited for our unfunded growth. And I'm hearing some very positive news. And talking to Chancellor Christian yesterday, the legislature is hearing that the districts like ours, and we're cited in the LAO analysis as well, that, and I don't want to take away from Brandon's thunder, but it's pretty impressive, the numbers that the percent that we have of unfunded. But again, it's getting traction in the fact that our name is being identified as a growth district. And then on a fun final note, Rebecca Orlowski asked me to remind everybody that the Foundation Gala is scheduled for April 18th at 6 p.m. at Pechanga, where we will be honoring Supervisor Washington for his contributions to the education setting around us. That concludes my report.
Thank you, President Schultz. We'll move on now to a report from the Student Government Association. Thank you.
I saw you looking over at my name
I know,
tag.
I know. It's Claudia Wilkinson. Yeah.
It's Waluko. It's okay.
Yeah, you saw me squint. Thank you.
No worries. So Student Government Association actually had a pretty eventful month this past month. We just came back from Washington, D.C. with a small group of myself and 5 other students on behalf of American Student Association for Community Colleges, where we were there to advocate to save our student aid. And we were actually able to meet with representatives for Congressman Darrell Issa, as well as a representative for Senator Padilla, where we just talked about how impactful the Pell Grant and the federal work study is for our students here at MSJC. We were able to provide them with numbers as far as how many students received the Pell Grant just in 2023 alone, and to advocate to make sure that they are on the correct side of history as far as making sure that federal aid continues and maybe even expands in the future. On a side note to that, the group that went, I was actually personally very proud of, because we spent about 6 to 7 hours outside of the conference just preparing research-wise into the representatives and making sure we knew what were the best angles to go for. So just to kind of highlight that the students we have in student government right now are very strong, and they're very passionate about advocating for our school. Besides that, we are also preparing to go to General Assembly for Student Senate for California Community Colleges next month, where we will be sending our delegate, Student Trustee Cardenas, to vote on bills that are upcoming and our views on it, as well as our next group of representatives for the state. We also had our Women's Day event yesterday, where our keynote speaker, Councilwoman Maricela Nava, actually gave a very empowering speech, and we also hosted a small panel of very strong women leaders in our campus, and that was a great event. And as Student Trustee Cardenas mentioned earlier, we did officially change our constitution and bylaws as voted on by our legislative board. The next step is to just take it to the rest of the school and see if they are willing to pass it as well, which will divide the legislative board on SGA to 3 separate campuses. If that passes, I feel like it would be a really great step forward as far as making sure each campus is represented with their concerns and needs. We were also there at the MSJC K through 12 Summit. We got a chance to table and recruit possible students coming in from high school for next year. We gave out shirts and we were swarmed. Apparently, MSJC shirts is the hot items during those events. So We also had the policy if you get a shirt, you get a flyer. So hopefully the people who got one will be telling their students about SGA and how they can get involved as soon as they become MSJC students. So that was exciting. And then on a side note, Trustee Cardenas and I were talking a little bit, but there has been a concern lately over the amount of late start classes that are being offered right now compared to how many classes were offered in previous semesters, as evident by the waitlist numbers. If you go through self-service right now, you will see that a lot of the classes that are starting this week, the wait list is up to 80 students, 60 students, 70 students, and this is just all the way down, which is a little bit concerning because a lot of these students have been waiting for these classes and they're not getting into them. They're, number 52 on the wait list, and this might be the last class they have before they have to graduate. And personally, I've never really seen numbers as far as 80 students on a wait list for the 2 years that I've been here. So some students are just a little concerned as far as if this is going to be a trend moving forward, if we're not offering as many classes now, or if there's something else going on where the norm is just to be waitlisted. So that is something we're just a little bit concerned about. And lastly, I will end on a positive note. I do just want to commend Trustee Cardenas for all the work that she's doing, not only representing us for the accreditation interview earlier last month, and then also for the listening sessions. On the student side, if you watch her doing this, she is literally going up to every single student that we see and asking them if they are willing to fill out this brief survey just to see what we can, what ideas we can get from them. We haven't really gotten as many attendees to our past events as Trustee Cardenas has single-handedly with these listening sessions. So I just want to give, my commendations to her, and she's doing a really great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. And we'll move on to item 5.5, Classified Senate Report. Ronnie Armas.
Thank you. Greetings. I am back. Wanted to acknowledge that I had my absence. I was a little under the weather, we'll just say. I wanted to acknowledge what you stated, Trustee Ashley, in terms of these unstable times. That is absolutely, I think, a great thing to bring up, especially in this forum, and for it to be acknowledged here, as well as everyone that is listening, that these are unstable and scary times, and that it is imperative that students do feel safe, that they do feel supported, and that they do feel that they have a space to speak their minds and advocate, as these two brilliant students here continually do. And quick side note, proud of both of you. You guys are amazing. But to create that stable environment for students also means that we have to create a stable environment for our classified. And so we can't forget the backbone and scaffolding of this institution, which is the classified body. And so as I sit here and have now for quite a while, I will continue to do that work to advocate for them and just always be that Jiminy Cricket on the shoulder to remind us all that we need to make sure that we acknowledge them and give them that same amount of support and stability and acknowledgement, and give them that same space to speak and feel safe as well, because these uncertain times hit everybody. So thank you for bringing that up. Second, I also wanted to give credit to two of our classified, Amber and Deja, who organized the International Women's Day yesterday at the MVC campus. It was a brilliant event. They did an amazing job. It was an amazing panel. A lot of students came through. Shout out to the cafe for catering it. They served pink tacos, and they were delicious. And just again, is another example of the great work that Classified can do when supported. And so the students absolutely appreciated it. And it is a trickle-down effect, right? If Classified is doing well, the students are going to do well. So shout out to Amber and Deja for the beautiful event. yesterday. I attended and supported, and it was brilliant. Also, I am back again, and so was back at College Council this past week, and I just wanted to acknowledge and say thank you for a good, robust discussion on some board policies and whatnot that took place during College Council. And so looking forward now that I am back to continue the work of advocacy for our classified body and just getting back into the swing. Thank you.
That report. We'll move on to item 5.6, Academic Senate Report with Professor John Torres.
Very much. Apologize real quick for my voice. I'm still getting over the crud that seems to be going around everywhere. I'd like to announce that the transition to the new Senate Constitution is going well. We've discovered a few hitches here and there, things that we need to tweak. You know, it's why we had a transition plan to get us through that process. The new Senate can address these and when they do their annual review next year. I am happy to announce also that we'll see our first Senate election under this new Constitution starting Monday. We actually had several nominations, which was great to see, and some of them actually accepted their nomination, so just enough of them. So we have candidates on the ballots, and voting will stay open 3 weeks because we have the spring break in between there. It's nice to see 12.1 on the agenda, plus minus grading. Glad to see that. I'd also like to actually one last time sort of not condemn, commend the accreditation team and all the work everybody put in getting that through. I'd also actually like to thank those brave participants who kind of shared their own heartfelt thoughts on what MSJC can do to be better. I want to let you all know that the Senate is here, willing to work with all constituents because we can be better. We got great accommodations. It looks great. I'm happy. I'm proud that our accreditation went so well. But I want to make sure that, there are things that we can still do to be better. And there are folks who shared those ideas, and we can't let those ideas just kind of flitter away. They had some important thoughts that they were willing to share, and I'm happy to see that. I'd also like to actually thank Trustee Ashley for your comments because it's absolutely right. We have these processes, as arduous as they might seem sometimes. Having worked for the Air Force, I think there's some things that I put forward in 1992 that are still an agenda item. So I understand how processes can be long, but it's an inclusive process. In order for it to be really, truly inclusive, we have to make sure all the constituents involved have time to participate. And I think if we are inclusive, we are better for it. And we all are in favor of that. So thank you for your comments on that. And actually, that will conclude my report. Thank you.
Going to move on to item 6.1, approval of the consent calendar. I feel like I was maybe somewhat remiss. Normally at the beginning of a meeting, board chairman will ask the fellow board members, is there anything you'd like pulled from the calendar? I'll make a note of it so I'm ready for it. But now that we're here, is there anyone that needs to pull an item for individual consideration? Okay, so with that, then I will call for I'll call for a motion for approval of the consent calendar.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? Student trustee, please vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Board members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Hey.
I vote. Thank you. Item 10.1, MSJC FA's Sunshine Proposal to MSJC for the academic year 25-26. Pursuant to Government Code 3547 and following the public hearing on March 20th, 2025, the board hereby adopts Mount San Jacinto College Faculty Association proposal to begin negotiations with Mount San Jacinto Community College. At this point, we will open that public hearing, and we are open for public comment at this time. Is there any? It is 5:45 p.m. Thank you. Hearing no public comments, I will now at 5:45 PM close the public hearing and that is just a public hearing. There is no need for approval of that. So moving on then to 11.1, open agenda business services. We have the 23-24 District Foundation Independent Audit. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees of MSJC District accepts the 2023-2024 District Foundation Independent Audit as presented. And we have, let me give the background. The district's independent auditors, Edie Bailey, how do you pronounce, is it Eddie?
Ide Bailey.
Ide Bailey, thank you, I won't get that wrong again. Ide Bailey have completed their audit of the District Foundation's financial records for 23-24. Copies of the audits have been provided and a copy is available for public review in the business office. The auditor found no significant deficiencies that are considered material weaknesses. There were no material findings or recommendations included in the audit report. The principal auditor will be at the board meeting to review the 23-24 District Foundation audit.
I'd like to introduce Emily Sheldon from Ide Bailey to lead the board through that discussion.
Welcome. Take your time, and you might need to adjust that mic. It looks like it's set up for Magic Johnson. Who?
Okay, well, good evening. My name is Emily Sheldon. I am from Ide Bailey, and it's okay. Everyone gets the name wrong. It is technically, the firm is founded in North Dakota, so last name is not very familiar to us in California. But I'm here to go over the foundation's audit report for 23-24. I'm going to go over the audit opinion, which is on the first page of the hard copy, or probably about page 3 on the PDF of the report. And you'll see in this first paragraph, this is where the audit opinion is. And it will say that we audited the financial statements of the Community College Foundation, which is going to include their statement of financial position, their statement of activities, their statement of functional expenses, as well as their statement of cash flows. And in our opinion, we are referring to these to be presented fairly in all material respects and are in accordance with the accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. What this entails is that there was no findings noted for the foundation audit for this year, meaning that there was no material adjustments, no material non-compliance, and no issues with management during the course of the audit. So it is considered a clean audit and a clean opinion over this. And I do want to highlight a couple things with the foundation, just so you can kind of see a little snapshot for this year. If you go to page 4, which is about a couple pages after the opinion, you'll see the statement of activities. This is what's considered the income statement for the foundation. And as you see towards the bottom, there's a change in net assets of about $1.2 million. This means there was an increase in income for the foundation for the 23-24 year.
That's good.
And then the other statement I would like to go over, just because this is a really great tool to talk about in terms of how the foundation is doing, is the statement of functional expenses, which is about 2 pages after. This is going to show what the funds are being spent on for the foundation. So you'll see there's 3 different categories: the program, the management in general, as well as the fundraising. The program is basically what is being going towards the mission of the foundation. So you'll see a lot of scholarships are getting towards that, grants, or even specific funds for departments at the colleges. If you do a little math in terms of the program expenses over the total expenses for the year, you'll see that the foundation has spent approximately 70% on the program, which is really good. In terms of a nonprofit spending, you want to see that range of about 65 to 75% or higher on spending on the program funds. So I would say the foundation's doing very well in doing that. That is everything I have for the report for you. Does anyone have any questions?
No findings are great, so I have no questions. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Have a good evening.
Yep, thank you. So with that, we will vote to accept the audit. Do I have a motion to accept the audit as presented?
I'll move to accept the audit as presented.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Student trustee, please vote.
Aye.
Board members, please vote. Aye.
Aye.
I vote it passes. The next item on our is item 12 on the open agenda from the Superintendent President's Office is item 12.1, MSJC Grading Convention, proposed plus minus grading. And this is a long process, and we have come to an agreement as an institution to approve the proposed plus minus grading convention. Do we have a motion to approve?
Trustee Ashley, I move to approve.
Have a second? You have a first and a second. Any more discussion on this item? With none, student trustee, please vote.
Aye.
Board members, please vote.
Aye.
Aye.
5-0, 6-0, really. Thank you. Great job, everyone who worked so hard to make that happen. It was a big deal. Next, we have item 13, comments of individual groups, delegations, limited to non-agenda items. Do we have anyone that's going to address the board on items that are not on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 14, the information agenda. California Community College Trustee Board of Directors election. Let me just let's read this. We have a little work to do here. Pursuant to the CCCT Board governing policies, the election of members of the CCCT Board of the League will take place between March 10th and April 25th. This year, there are 4 seats up for re-election of the board. Candidate statements and bios are available on the league's website. Each community college district governing board shall have 1 vote for each of the 4 seats on the board. Only 1 vote may be cast for any 1 nominee. So we can't go all in and give 1 person 4 votes. The 4 candidates who receive the most votes will serve a 3-year term. And there you have it, everybody. There are 16 trustees in the running. It is your job over the next month to come back with your recommendations of who you would like us to support as a board. That's why it's an information item. We're not voting on it tonight. So study up. I'm sure you've been getting emails from folks that would like you to vote for them. And if you go to that website, you can look at their statements, and I recommend you do so. Any comments on that?
Can we like recommend anybody right now? It's just to look at.
It wouldn't be a great time for a discussion on it, but if you just have 1 or 2 people you'd like us to focus in on, I'd be happy to take a note to pay careful attention to them.
I like Jose Alcala from RCC. And if possible, Mary Jane.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely Jose Alcala. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we'll move, I guess, on to item 14.2. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes.
So once a decision is made, then is it you're the person that as chair?
No, we will literally horse trade it out right here in a month and come to an agreement on the 4 individuals we'd like to cast our votes for, or less than 4 if we can't come to an agreement and we can only agree on 3. We could do that, I suppose. And then our board executive, Roger's executive assistant, will,
So Jackie,
or the board, Roger's the secretary, and he'll take those votes and send them off to the state and for tallying up.
I wasn't sure if this is to be taken, that go to a certain conference or something and voted there, or it's voted through, okay.
Yes, the reason that it seems like that is because the ACCT
That's what I.
makes us get in there with, and have it out right in a big conference, and it's a completely different process.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for
Yep. All right. With that, we'll move on to 14.2 accreditation update. Rebecca Teague, Vice President of Student Services and Accreditation Liaison Officer, and Anna Sterling, Interim Dean of Institutional Effectiveness, will present an update on the Institutional Self-Evaluation Report, ICER, and the outcome shared by the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges, ACCJC. Visiting peer review team at the final roof forum on February 27th, 2025. There should have been a period in there somewhere, but there it is. You are on the stage. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much. All right, so we just want to share with where we're at and where we're going. So this is just a quick snapshot. Obviously, see those red dots. These are all things that have happened in the past. And then we are heading into the ACCJC visiting team providing us with a copy of our draft report. And this is for us as an institution to be able to review for accuracy purposes. It's just correcting names, titles, information to make sure that they're not misrepresenting us as another institution or a system that they might have somewhere else. And so we will be reviewing that report and once they deliver it to us and providing that input back. Once that occurs, then we will have the evaluation team. They will be sending that to the commission and they will be working on that for action item at their July meeting. So our focus site visit court inquiry interviews, we had, I can't even, did we even count? Okay. So we had 6 different court inquiries, all of which had multiple interviews that you saw in the schedule. Many of you participated in those efforts, but we had the MSJC call to action, the syllabus CLO alignment, the RSI and DE placement practices, our MSJC Academy, and our governance processes. And then at the last minute on Wednesday afternoon, the team said, hey, we would like to speak to your Veterans Resource Center staff. And so we quickly provided a space for them on Thursday morning to do an interview with that team at their request. And so after all of that occurred, we had our report out session. And just to give you some definitions. So when we talk about recommendations from the evaluation team, there are 2 types of recommendations. One is for compliance purposes, that you are in full compliance with the standard and there's are deficiencies in those areas of the standard and you need to be in full compliance because it's not half credit when we're looking at recommendations and meeting the standards. And then there are also recommendations for improving institutional effectiveness. And those are essentially saying, hey, you're doing a great job. We want you to keep up with the good work and we want you to carry forward with the momentum that you've had in this, whatever project that you're working on. And so in their not open forum, but in their report out, they shared with us that we are receiving no recommendations for compliance. So what that is saying is that we have no, we are in full compliance of all standards for our accreditation. And so we received 1 recommendation for institutional effectiveness, and that was specifically for our simple syllabus for CLO alignment. We had made such great effort in that arena, specifically with our instructional office and our faculty and adopting and piloting the simple syllabus product. And it really is streamlining that process to ensure that there's alignment on our course syllabus with all of those different elements. So they were essentially saying, yes, keep up the good work. We will check back with you later on this effort, but you're doing a great job. And then they also had 2 commendations that, and all of this is proposed, I should say. This is all proposed. We won't know for certain until we receive their action letter in July, but we have 2 commendations for the MSJC call to action. In particular, they really focused on the fact that we were, I'm going to say, action oriented, in that we put all of our strategies, all of the best practices in place, and that they were able to derive actual changes in our data and our outcomes for students, particularly those impacting our Black and African American student success rates. And so with that, they wanted to provide a commendation. And then also our veteran support services. As we know, our veteran resource centers are at all 3 sites. They are serving a very large population. They're continually growing. And they are focused on a lot of community service, community work. They're the first groups that we go to when we're seeking volunteers for activities and events. And it's just a phenomenal program. And their success rates are also extremely high. And so they wanted to provide commendations for those areas. All right. And so what happens next is essentially we will be reviewing that report, as I mentioned, for accuracy. The evaluation team will be handing that right back to the commission for further review at their meeting in June, and then we should receive an action letter in July. We're anticipating full reaffirmation of accreditation for at least the 7 years, with the midterm report sprinkled in, as is customary with our ACCJC timelines. And so these are all the folks that we want to thank. And this isn't even everyone, honestly. It was an institutional wide effort starting 2 years ago. All of you, I really absolutely appreciate the work that the board has put into this effort and your patience in hearing about accreditation so very often. But you were extremely engaged in this process, asked such great questions, made sure that we were in alignment with what we needed to do relative to the report. And so I do appreciate your support in this effort and for participating in the interviews. We also want to extend our thanks to the steering committee work that was comprised of all of our classified professionals, our faculty members, and also administration and students. And then obviously the folks that participated in the interviews, they were tremendous during those interviews and really helped to capture the essence of what the core inquiries were trying to determine for the evaluation team. And then also all the other folks that were in the background supporting the entire week. It took an army of folks to put together all the IT support, security, all of our print shop needs, M&O for cleaning the room, and cafeteria for being there to refresh. So it really was an undertaking, but we did it very well. I know there's been a lot of mention about the open forum and some comments that were shared. And I know that when Roger was sharing out during the report out, obviously there are areas that we want to make sure that we improve on that might not be captured in the actual accreditation report. And so those aren't things that we're going to be dismissing. Those are things that we're actively going to be pursuing and having conversations about as an institution. But relative to the standards, we're in very good shape as we're moving forward in this next 7-year period.
That's right.
Awesome. Any questions?
Thank you so much. I guess, is this both of your second rodeo, or is it third? Twice? Once? Thank
My
you so much.
third and my final. Yes.
I was just about to say that, third and final.
Third and final, yes. So hopefully we will be handing off the baton in July once this cycle is completed to our interim dean of institutional effectiveness to carry on the ALO efforts. It's been a sweet 17 years, but peace out. I'm excited to support from a different role at this point, but it's a fabulous process to go through. And I really appreciate the time that I've been able to be in this role, in this capacity.
Thank you. We know how hard you work on this. As they say, and we've all heard this one before, but if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's what we did. Thank you. And with that, we adjourn. I'm just kidding, Brandon. You'd be the happiest one probably. Item 14.3, enrollment management update.
Be on board with that. So I gotta bring my laptop up because we got some latest and greatest stuff going on here. All right, so this is welcome to your spring 25 enrollment update. Here we go. There's gonna be a lot of stuff on here, but we're not gonna cover all of it. If you have questions, by all means, jump in. All right, so this first slide is just talking about all the courses that we have offered spring to spring to spring. So we have 5 years worth of springs. What's going on? Where's my animation? The worst day of my life. All right, so we're just going to focus down on the graph in the bottom left corner. So you can see that we're currently offering 1,600 sections, which is actually up from last spring where we had 1,579 sections. Our fill rate is also much higher, up at 89.8% of our seats are filled in our classes, which is great. The two graphs on the right just show you the modalities. So I believe Trustee Ashley, you were talking earlier about roughly 40% of our classes are still on ground in either hybrid or face-to-face format. That's true. We're holding about 60% online. And then it also shows where those sections are located. So when we talk about headcount, this is a unique individual headcount, right? So this is unduplicated. We're only counting every student once. You can see that we're up at basically 17,000 headcount this spring. That is the largest spring, not just in this 5-year term, that is the largest spring ever. So this follows up our largest fall ever, which is great. So we're seeing that take out. And again, on the graphs on the right-hand side show you what modality those students are taking those headcount and where they are by location. What we're seeing right now is a trend where San Jacinto campus and Temecula campus are running into about the same size. So this graph is showing that they're starting to match. If you look at the 11% for San Jacinto and just under 10% for Temecula, I'm assuming and we're projecting that going into next year, the two campuses will be identical and Menifee will be roughly twice their size. Over time, we anticipate there being a leveling off where all three sites are roughly the same size. So I think I heard the SGA group or whatnot looking to have representation each site. There's a good reason for it, right? Because you're serving similar size populations, although they may be slightly different or their needs may be different. But those are what we're seeing with the headcount right now. So this is the FTS by term. So again, typically the spring term, we see a small dip in FTS from the fall. We're seeing that again this term, but it's just not as great. So we're up over almost 6,500 full-time equivalent students here in the spring term, which is absolutely crazy. We were just over 6,500 for the fall also. This year, we are projecting over 14,000 FTS for the second year in a row, but it's actually creeping up a little bit higher, which is nuts. So good to see that. Again, the graphs on the right, these were questions that I think some of you all had asked periodically, which is why they're in the presentation. Shows you the distribution of FTS and also the FTS by location. Again, online is both a location and a modality, so it falls into both. This is our fill rates. So again, 89.8% is our fill rate, which is again up from last spring, which is great, which means we're really efficient, which we need to be, and I'm going to talk about why we have to be efficient with our fill rates as I move on to the next slides. But it also shows our fill rates by modality. So you can see that the online is running strong, but hybrid is also running strong now. So hybrid is the blue bar, and all of those. Hybrid struggled for a little bit, but coming out of COVID, it's starting to catch on and get a lot more traction. Some of that is probably due to the requirements of the Cal States and the UCs that our sciences, the lab portions have to be in person. So that's maybe artificially increasing that, but students are here anyway. So what we're finding is they're taking additional face-to-face or hybrid classes at that time. So we need to make sure that we are focusing on scheduling in a way that if a student's coming to campus anyway for a hybrid lab, we may as well have some other classes right around that time that they could take while they're here. So we're continuing to work with the departments and instruction to do that. You can see that face-to-face classes still aren't filling as well. We do have seats available in those classes, but it's not universal. So this is a broad look. Some departments are actually seeing extremely high fill rates for face-to-face. I know that the math department has real success. English is having some great success with that. So, and there are a few others that are out there. So you brought this up earlier. You didn't even know it, Claudia. You were actually giving me a heads up. This is our wait list seats. You can't even see the number on the one for this semester. That's because it's over 17,000, almost 18,000 waitlisted seats for this term. Last year, obviously, it was 3,900, and before that, it was what I would call normal. So normal around this time would be just about 2,000, 2,300 waitlisted seats, and that would be going back in time, even 8-9 years, which would be normal. Typically, what we'd see is that students on the waitlist would waitlist in one class. So you have almost a one-to-one students versus seats. This is not what we're seeing. Currently, we have actually just over 5,000 head count, but they're generating 18,000 seats, which means each student is basically waitlisting on an average of 3 classes. Three different classes, correct. That doesn't happen. And it's not really happening now either. So this is where we're seeing an inundation of fraud. And if you look at the graph on the top right corner, 90.3% of our wait lists are online. So what we have is we're being inundated with those fraudulent accounts into the online sections by and large. I actually was getting live numbers after what you mentioned earlier from some people behind the scenes. And 74% of the waitlisted seats For classes that started March 1st and later for this term, 74% of those already have an ID verification hole on the account, which means we've already deemed them to be fraudulent. So what does that mean? Well, here's what that means. During the majority of our cycle, right up until the week before classes start, we automatically enroll students and drop students as they don't pay or as they drop classes or seats become available. So if there's a class that's full, I'm trying to get into it, I go into register and I'm like, oh, it's full, crap, that sucks. I'll just go on the wait list. Well, if somebody else drops out of that class, when we get to my number on the wait list, I'll be added into that class. And if I pay for that class, I move on. If I have an ID verification hold on my account, when I get added to that class or attempted to, the system will say, oh, you have to verify your identity. You then get kicked out and the next person moves up. While it works and it's possible that if I'm 82nd on the wait list, all those people ahead of me could just be kicked out as we go and then I'll get that slot. Probably not going to happen because they're probably not all fake up into the 82. But that's also really discouraging because I'm sure there are some students who go in and they say, hey, I need this class. Oh crap, there's already 80 people waiting for it. I'm not even going to put my name on that list because I'm not going to get there. The problem is those students aren't real. This is a unique problem that a few colleges and districts are dealing with right now. If we didn't have enough enrollments, we wouldn't even notice this. They would just get seats and go. Our problem is that we have actual students trying to get classes. And if we aren't diligent with our battling of this fraud, we're going to keep kicking real students out and not giving them access to classes. That's the number one conversation that we have with the group that's constantly working on fraud is we don't need the enrollments. We don't need the FTS. Like all that that's nothing. We know there are real students trying to finish what they started here, and they're not able to get into class because these fraudulent accounts are bogging down the system and taking up spots. So even in a situation like this, where again, everybody in front of me on the wait list might not even get into that class, right? Because as soon as the system goes to add them, they're going to see the verification hold and we're going to go to the next person, the next person. But I'm probably not going to put my name on a list if I'm 80th. I'm not going to put my name on the list if I'm even 30th probably. So we are continuing to work on different ways that we can get the bad actors out of the system because just their mere presence alone is probably discouraging some students. And it's why we're seeing wait lists that are not normal. So we've added 300 additional seats to our late start classes this spring. But the wait lists are looking like we didn't do anything. In fact, it's looking like we're getting trounced. So we've got to figure out another way looking at the wait lists of trying to identify these accounts and being even more aggressive. Now, granted, every time we're aggressive, you're going to catch real students in the net. So as we broaden our net for catching fraudulent students, there are real students that are going to flag with this, and they're going to have to come in and prove that they are who they say they are. We're trying to balance that out. Our current error rate is less than 3%. So when we flag accounts and we say, look, this looks like it's fraud, we're going to put a hold on that until they come to campus and prove who they are. We're only messing up about 3% of those right now. It's actually at 2.7. That's not bad, but those are still real students. And while I'd like that to be zero, it's not realistic for it to be zero. I'd say that 2.7% is pretty good, but it looks like we need to expand that again because as you can see, that's a big jump from spring to spring. So Claudia, when you talked about it, it wasn't normal, right? And last year we probably heard the normal. Hey, so my classes are full. That's normal. Classes fill up. But this is ridiculous. To go from what, 3,900 to 18,000, we've got to do something different now looking at that. So we'll continue to look into that and work through that. But that's our biggest struggle at this institution. We're trying to open up seats for real students and it's being bogged down. So we'll continue to be aggressive and hopefully we have some better news on that one. Okay, so these last few slides, these are just showing you where students come from. So this is for the spring term again. The bubbles are just obviously graphs, and the bigger the bubble, the more people in that area. But it's just listing the cities of residents and their head count across the district. So this is for all of our sites. And then I left the districts in there so that you all can see the students coming from your actual district. So those are all trustee areas or trustee districts there. This one is just for Menifee. So if you want to know where people that go to the Menifee campus are coming from, by the way, sorry, this is only for face-to-face and hybrid classes. Students don't really care where the online class is located. They're taking an online class. So, but you can see, it shouldn't shock you at the Menifee campus. Most people come from, Menifee, it looks like. Marietta, Temecula, Lake Elsinore, and then Hemet. Whoa, that's not what I want. Go away. Are you trying to click that away, Micah? Make it go away. Make it go away. There we go. Thanks, Micah. This one is San Jacinto. Again, where do they come from in San Jacinto? You can see it on the graph even more dramatically, but it's from Hemet and San Jacinto. That's the majority of it, right? And then you've got some people driving over from Menifee, Murrieta, and Paris. And then Temecula, where are they coming from? Shock, Temecula. And then Murrieta. Murrieta is an interesting one because it's literally right in the middle of Temecula and Menifee. So we split those two is what it seems like is happening. What we find is that, again, you've only got 84 students driving over to from Hemet, and you've got 56 from San Jacinto. This goes to what we've seen over the years. Our students don't typically travel, right? They typically attend the campus that's closest to them, and that makes total sense. So it's, again, that's why we're seeing the growth. We're seeing some adjustments. Obviously, we know that some programs aren't available at all campuses. So if you want to do automotive, yeah, you're going to San Jacinto. Nursing, you're going to end up at Menifee eventually. So there are those types of programs. But for the most part, again, that's just how the breakdown looks at this time. And there's online. Shocking, they're everywhere. Murrieta, Menifee, Hemet. Again, those are just going kind of in the size of the populations that we get. All right, so this is a fun one. This is new, exciting. So Roger's mentioning unfunded FTS. He's mentioned this a few times. Roger's saying that he keeps going out to places and he's lobbying for us. This is what he's lobbying for. So we're highlighted at the very top. This isn't a list you want to be at the top of, but we're technically second, so we can do better. What this is telling you that from P1, so the apportionment report that just came out for this academic year, that far left column, we are not being funded for 1,636 FTES. So we are serving more students than we're getting paid for. There's 1,636 of them. We are getting paid for a total of, or we're earning a total of 14,179, but we're only being funded for 12,500. What does that mean? Well, that impacts our budget. Our total revenue is 120 million, 121 million. $8.66 million we are not receiving from the state for students that we are currently serving. So that's at our current state, not changing anything. We are serving more students than we're getting paid for. How much is that costing? $8.66 million. That's 11.5% of our FTS are not funded. That equates to 7.2% of our budget is actually being withheld from the state because we're not getting paid for those. Why do I emphasize? Go ahead. Yes, absolutely, Tom.
Has that been rounded to be like for an entire fiscal year?
Yeah, so P1 is giving the estimate for the entire year's FTS and the budget. And that's actually how the budget's
And of course,
developed.
that's sorted from the far right, second to the last column.
It's actually, yeah, it's sorted by FTS unfunded, percentage of FTS unfunded. If you look at the budget, we actually moved down one spot. We're still third at 7.2% of our budget. Southwestern actually jumps us because they're at 7.3. So what's interesting about this is this, what spurred this report was Roger was showing me the LAO put out a report, and they were showing districts that didn't have, that were getting unfunded FTS. And State Center is actually the number one, at over 2,500 unfunded. You're like, that's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy, but it's not impacting their budget like it's impacting ours. It's not actually a portion. They're a gigantic area. In fact, if you look at State Center up there, they generate what, 35,000 FTS. Their budget's 303 million. So it's hitting them, but not like it's hitting Victor Valley, not like it's hitting us. So this is what Roger's been arguing for and trying to get, that we need the state to fund the formula. It irritates me, and I keep saying it. It's called the student-centered funding formula, but the funding is not following where the students are. The students are in certain places. We know where they are. In fact, these are the only districts out of the 72 districts that are seeing this right now. Not all of them are even hitting their targets. Couple examples, random examples. I'll just pull them off the top of my head. Palomar. What's that? Palomar. Okay, hypothetically speaking, if you looked at Palomar's data, you'd find out that they are getting overpaid by 1,682 FTES. We're being underpaid by 1,636. Just give us the stuff that we've earned. They're actually getting $8.8 million that they're not earning, and we are losing $8.8 million that we are earning. I hate them.
It's almost like they're getting funded for all our students that used to go there.
That's totally what it's actually pretty accurate. It's a pretty fair assessment, because that's about how many we would lose every term to them. So it's frustrating with that. A bigger one, and this one blew me away, and I keep sharing it just because it's mind-boggling. So LA is huge. LA is the largest district that we have in the state. They serve over 300,000 students. We can't even touch them. They're 7 times larger than we are. The 22-23 academic year, because of all of the hold harmless and the COVID provisions, we were all getting paid at a certain level. So they used to generate about 100,000 FTES. It was 99,000 and change. They were no longer generating that amount of money. They were actually generating 79,000 FTES, which is still a crazy number. But they've been getting paid at the higher level. So they've been getting paid for 20,000 FTES that they do not earn. That equates to $89 million that they're receiving that they're not actually earning in student participation. We are in this other hand where we're saying we need to expand as much as we can, but we're not getting funded to expand, which means you really can't add faculty and staff because we can't afford that. So how do we grow? We've been trying to grow through efficiency, higher fill rates, scheduling the right classes at the right time and the right modalities. But we've capped what we're able to do. We can't expand more than we are unless we start receiving the funding that would cover that. So we're now at the point where, I mean, gosh, at 90% fill rate, you have no room to really move. And so we're really trying to still be strategic and do what we can, but we're kind of stuck until we receive the additional funding. But there's some other chaos that goes on with that because the hold harmless year, the 22-23 year was still a hold harmless year, which is one of the 3 years that's used in the calculation for how many FTS you earn. And since it's being artificially inflated, some districts are showing on this list that won't be on here when that falls off because one of the years in their calculation is artificially being held high. So this will even change a little bit as we go into next year. Other fun things I'm just throwing out there now because I'm on a roll here. This is going to be the benchmark year moving forward. It's going to be the floor for all districts. So all the COVID provisions are going away. The hold harmless as it used to exist, that will all go away. So this year, the 24-25 year will be the lowest for any district. If I'm struggling for enrollments, why would I fight fraud? Why would I not just try to put as much FTS as possible in so that my floor is still higher than what it actually is? Is that game being played? I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying that it isn't. And again, these are based off of P1 numbers. P1 is an estimate. We can pretty much say whatever we want on this one, and that helps our cash flow keep going. It all gets fixed or reconciled back at the recalc, which will happen next fiscal year. It's like September is the final recalc. February. Oh, after the fiscal. So we get the first reports come in August, September, and then the final is February of the next year. So awesome. So that's a little depressing, but this is why Roger keeps talking about it. This is, in my opinion, this is the biggest thing that we're running up against. It's the fraud that's causing students not to be able to get classes, and it's the lack of funding for the student population that we actually have. There has been a shift in the state. Everybody talks about the great migration out of the most expensive areas. Yeah, that's all fine. That's great. Maybe it's happening. Maybe it's not. All I know is we have students that we can't get into classes, and they're going to be left with no other options eventually because all of the colleges around here will start to get filled up.
And it hurts our reputation.
Absolutely. It's frustrating, right? My son's in his last semester here. He was caught up on all this too. Like it's irritating and it's frustrating. So this is something I know Roger's passionate about. I know executive cabinet, we talk about this a lot, but when we're talking fraud, this is our biggest issue is that we know that, again, we catch real students in the net. We're not trying to do that. But if we don't fight this really aggressively, there will be no seats for any student because the fraudsters are much better at this. So again, we'll try to work through it. We will do our best and we will do better. We'll continue to improve on it. Any other questions? I should have ended on a more positive note. I'm like, all right, everybody just go to dinner now, have fun. But any questions? Yeah.
So what can we tell students who are being affected by the waitlist issue? Or they're like falsely accused?
Oh, so they're not necessarily falsely accused, right? So we're not actually saying like, oh, you're a liar. No, what we're saying is, hey, look, we don't have enough information to verify you're an actual student. So we just want them to come to one of the campuses and just bring their what do they have to bring, Rebecca? What's that? Just a government ID to show, hey, look, yes, it's actually me. I live there, and here are the classes I'm trying to register for. So it gets cleared up in a matter of no time, and we have a lot of people that are just waved through that process that couldn't get caught up. But yeah, just you want to come to campus, and we'll just verify your identity, and we'll get you unlocked and get you going. That's a good question. Sorry, I saw Vicky first, and then Holster.
So for you, Roger, so as you're going, advocating for this and trying to solve this, what traction are you getting?
Actually, we are fortunate. So Southwestern has an assembly member who chairs the higher ed committee and being close, it'd be like us having conversations with our local people. They've really brought attention to this issue and the number of students that are being turned away because, as Brandon said, we've got 5,000 students on the wait list that we believe are real. We have K through 12 partners that are coming forward in other districts, same thing. Finally, the legislature is hearing that they need to fund this growth, this unfunded, the unfunded FTEs and the growth. And their budget hearings are going on right now. I've had 3 conversations in the last 24 hours that lead me to believe they have found a budget solution for this. They said, don't spend the money yet, but it is looking very promising because of the sheer number that is not being funded means we're denying access. When you see the cuts that are happening at CSU and the UC, and they're not being able to take on more. So the most efficient, largest system is us. They don't want to have us turning people away because that will lead to them down a path that does not give them the opportunity that higher education will give them. So I'm optimistic, but again, my team always says,
Rainbows and butterflies, rainbows and butterflies, which is fine. And the other issue that Roger's been taking on is the technology spending. So there's an emphasis from the chancellor's office on cybersecurity, which there should be. Obviously, fraud is impacting that as well. But all those dollars are on the wrong side of the 50% law. So how do you hire more staff to battle fraud, combat security, make sure our systems are safe when it's all wrong side spending? So they've got to come up with a solution for that as well. We haven't heard any yet, but maybe there's something. Trustee Cronin, you had a question?
I was gonna say, I think it was mentioned in one of the last board meetings that one of the best ways to catch this fraud is professors. Kudos to the professors for all their work and diligently looking at the students. I know for my class that I take here at MSJC, our professor had us all record ourselves, introduce ourselves, who we are. I think that really helped out. But again, just kudos to all professors who are working really hard in catching these fraudsters.
Yeah, and our goal is to try to keep them out of the classes. Once the classes start, yeah, the faculty have done a great job of identifying those students who aren't students. But they're getting better. Technology is advancing quickly. AI is out there advancing quickly. And then there's a distinction between a fraudulent student and somebody who's cheating, right? So a fraudulent student is not a real person who's taken up a seat in the class. Somebody who's perhaps not academically honest, that's a real person doing those things, right? And so there is a distinction there that we're trying to battle. Our team is focused on the fraud, right? You're not even a real person or a real student trying to take up the seats in the class. Faculty are then, once that class starts, trying to battle that and also figure out who's using what to do their homework in their classes. So we're at interesting times for sure. Any other questions? All right, we're done.
It's that time of the evening. Item 15.1, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to, or move to adjourn.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, student trustee, please vote.
Aye.
Board members, vote please.
Aye.
Are adjourned at 6:28 PM. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
All right.